I'm Linda Abbott. I'm a consultant with T&G and an NVIDIA advisory board member.
And hi, my name is Tim Kaysen. I am also a consultant with T&G and also a NVIDIA advisory board member. And we're coming to you today in our third video of our series addressing the concept of one team versus two teams as it relates to behavioral intervention strategies. And so as we queued up last time, Linda, we want to talk about some of the structural challenges that are created by having multiple teams. And I think the first and one of the most obvious is the actual membership of multiple teams. Because we know that certain departments need to be represented in both a care low-level space as well as a threat assessment high-level space like mental health, police, public safety, security, student conduct, and then a senior administrator like a dean of students of some kind. And so when we have these multiple teams, one of the biggest challenges is that we're creating duplicative work for staff or departments. And what I mean by that is we're either asking the same staff member to go to multiple meetings, sometimes to talk about the same student just in different capacities, or we're asking a singular department to be represented on these separate teams by separate individuals, which I think can naturally create some disconnect or inequitable delivery of information and services from those departments. And so while it often comes from a good place of wanting to minimize the work on staff and or departments, we're actually just likely doubling the work, whether it's the same staff member going to both meetings or different staff members going to these separate meetings. It's duplicative work.
Absolutely. And Tim, along those same lines, when we have these different teams and we've got potentially different representation from these departments, sometimes we even have different chairs of these teams, right. Which causes its own operational difficulties. You know, different people run things in different ways, have different leadership skills and styles. And so sometimes that can cause some issues from a structural standpoint, and that will lead into more process, which we'll get into next time. But I think that's another thing that we see. And then I think another really big issue that we see is that we then have a need for two policy and procedure manuals. Yeah. We see teams often struggling with having one and keeping that one policy and procedure manual up to date. And so when you have two teams, you now have two different policy and procedure manuals you need to be staying on top of, making sure that they're updated, and making sure that they aren't conflicting with each other in some way.
Right. And speaking to each other about and articulating how information and cases are transferred to each other, which Absolutely. I think is a really unique challenge that we'll address when we get to the process section in our next video of just some of the process elements that become difficult when we're addressing this through a two-team model.
Absolutely. When our structure is separate, it's going to lead to procedural differences and challenges, and we will talk to you about those next week.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.